This is GOALIE TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion. And can I begin tonight simply by playing to a certain crowd? Alright, I think it was about this time last week I talked about, sorry, I apologize, I'm just getting to this now. This is not breaking news. And I know I'm not breaking it to anyone. But I made a little bit of a detour and I said, unless you're getting off work at 6:30 in the evening. Well, I'm going to play to you guys that are getting off at 6:30 in the evening tonight. Because there's been an interesting development in Oilers land today in which the Oilers have claimed Alex Stalock from the Minnesota Wild. You want to say, why do I know that name? Former San Jose Shark. He's been with the Wild a little bit. He's been with Wild all year this year, hasn't done much because he was injured to start the year, something about a heart condition or something. I'm not going to pretend like I know this story fully because that's not the angle I'm coming at, right? Yes, okay, to my 6 o'clock, 6:30 crowd, I'm breaking the news that Stalock, the goalie, is now our quote-unquote third-string goalie, in which Dylan Wells will be down with the Bakersfield Condors once Stalock clears quarantine. That is standard operating procedure. However, today, my 6:30 crowd, I have to fill you in on the most interesting situation of the Oilers' day today. And it's not who's out of the lineup versus Toronto tonight. It's not what Coach Tippett said in the pregame. It's nothing to do with any of that. It is the fact that somehow, someway, the Oilers fan base, right? I mean, let's take it on a general consensus, did not want Mike Smith re-signed. They did not want Mike Smith. Even when he was winning all these games 6-0, they were still crapping all over Mike Smith. But in a weird, only in Edmonton Oilers land, shift to the mind frame as soon as you get a new player, the hate is squarely on Mikko Koskinen. Go across every post about Alex Stalock to the Edmonton Oilers today, and I will guarantee you 75% of the comments are, let's ditch Koskinen, use Stalock and Smith. That's 75% of online Oilers fans today want the Oilers to fire Mikko Koskinen into the sun and use Alex Stalock and Mike Smith as your pair for the rest of the season and playoffs. I'm a little lost. Okay, this is why I'm filling in my 6 o'clock, 6:30 crowd on this, because I feel like the 6 o'clock, 6:30 crowd that doesn't have time at 10 in the morning to be sitting there waiting for Oilers news to break on the waiver wire, I feel like they're not the ones saying this. In fact, I know they're not the ones saying this because they're just getting home at 6 o'clock, 6:30 and hearing for the first time that Alex Stalock is an Edmonton Oiler. And they are not saying get rid of Mikko Koskinen. Why? Because I feel like, not to say they've got better things to do with their lives than worry about the Oilers' goaltending situation at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning, but, that's about the only realistic thing I can come up with as to why we haven't seen anyone yelling about Mike Smith, right? Like the Mike Smith hating crowd hasn't got home yet. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying nothing better to do with their life, but the Mike Smith anti-crowd hasn't got home yet because they get home at 6:30. And everybody that just thinks Mikko Koskinen is the worst goaltender in the NHL has time at 10 in the morning, noon, 1 o'clock to yell that we should replace Koskinen, fire him into the sun, and replace him with Alex Stalock. That's my general consensus on this. And maybe this is where I'm looking for your feedback on this, if I'm indeed correct on my theory here, because it is just baffling to me that everybody wants to fire the goaltender that kept the Oilers alive, right? Guys, if the Oilers would have played half-decent defensive hockey in those first 9 games, we probably would be in first place in the division right now, having the chance to lose first place to the Leafs instead of have to fight the Leafs for first place over the next 2 games and a little bit going forward. We would be in a completely different situation because Mikko Koskinen gave us enough of a chance to win the way we were playing in those games, in the first 9 games. But the defense, the power play, name it, wasn't helping the goaltender out. But now, magically, you acquire a goalie that has a 2011 and I think 8 or 2011 and 3 record last season and played the play-in series for Minnesota. Everybody wants that guy to replace Mikko Koskinen. They want to ride a hot Mike Smith because, I mean, Mike Smith's never been better in his NHL career than he is right now, and that's going to keep up because, I mean, it absolutely will, which the anti-Mike Smith crowd will tell you it absolutely won't, as maybe perhaps it came crashing down on Saturday night against the Leafs. But beyond me, for the time being, Mikko Koskinen is the problem for the Oilers now. Mike Smith is the solution, which just after covering the Oilers, the entirety of Mike Smith's career with the Oilers, seems like I am in some parallel dimension that, I mean, straight up, you wonder why I don't post some days? Because I can't even comprehend what my supposed fellow fans are feeling, talking about, because I am lost. As an Oilers fan that tries to stay cool, calm, and collected as much as possible, of course I play the exuberance up sometimes, quite often actually, but right, is the fact that nothing makes sense. This entire season has not made sense. The misplaced anger, it's just take everything the Oilers fans, the typical Oilers fans that like to run players out of town, are good at, and throw about 16 grams of meth at it, and hype that mentality up, just out of just complete out of touch, and try to comprehend what the mentality is. Because I tell you, right, today, it's Mikko Koskinen is the biggest Oilers problem we've seen all season, so we should fire him into the sun, replace him with Stalock, and ride Mike Smith into the playoffs. And tomorrow, when Stalock arrives in Alberta, it'll be all about why Stalock was a waste of time to claim. And then Wednesday, it'll be why Mike Smith no longer should play the rest of the season because Mikko Koskinen had such a good game tonight against the Leafs, and he's starting the next game against the Leafs. I straight up don't get it. And that's why I'm playing to the 6 o'clock, 6:30 crowd tonight, is simply, please tell me that there's at least some balance to this. That's all I'm asking for. At least tell me, based on what I had time to read today in every comment thread of a post about Alex Stalock, that somebody out there thinks that, you know what, Mikko Koskinen shouldn't be fired into the sun. We shouldn't ride Mike Smith and Stalock into the playoffs because there is no improvement here because Stalock hasn't played a game in over a year. Hello. Right? Or I guess not over a year, but hasn't, whatever. You get where I'm going. I don't even get where I'm going, but I think in this, I made myself enough clear to talk about Alex Stalock and just the absolute confusing nature of it all. We can talk about the implications later, fine and dandy, but right now, until he gets through quarantine, there ain't no point. Because, right, we talked about the impact, the possibility of Troy Grosnick for how long? Troy Grosnick, I have not heard that name since the day he got claimed off waivers by the LA Kings. Okay, that's the reality. I'm Tyson. This is GOALIE TV. 6:30 crowd, I love you. Please tell me. Please tell me you're going to come up clutch for me, all right? I'm up on, out of here.